Millionaire CEO forced his wife out of the house. Years later, she returned owning the mansion. The storm rolled across the city like a warning as Evelyn Hart stood at the top of the marble staircase for the last time. The mansion was too quiet, too cold, too polished to ever feel like home, but it was all she had known for the last 7 years. The chandeliers sparkled above her, catching the distant rumble of thunder as if the house itself was waiting for something terrible to unfold. Her suitcase sat by her feet, small, painfully small, packed with only the clothes she managed to grab before her husband made sure she couldn't take anything else. Damon Hart, Millionaire CEO of Hart Dynamics, stood near the fireplace drinking a neat glass of bourbon as if he were hosting a casual board meeting rather than throwing his wife into the storm. He didn't look angry. He looked bored, almost relieved, the way men looked when they finally tore down something they had grown tired of. He had been a self-made prodigy with the media wrapped around his finger. The kind of man who slid into boardrooms and turned heads, who bought lake houses as casually as buying a shirt, who never forgave mistakes, especially not from the woman he once promised forever. "You'll only make this harder if you drag it out," he said, voice sharp and clean like white marble. "Sign the papers. Leave with dignity. Let's not pretend you were ever built for this life." Evelyn's breath tightened, but she didn't shout. She didn't cry. She stood straighter. Her golden brown hair slipped over her shoulder, her silk blouse slightly wrinkled from the shouting hours earlier, her eyes still shining with the remnants of hope she'd been too naive to let die. She signed every paper he shoved in front of her, papers that gave her nothing. No shares, no property, no cars, no funds, no rights. Damon had ensured she would leave with only the clothes she could carry. The betrayal was not in the divorce. It was in how calculating he had been, the mistress he'd hidden for months, the false accusations his lawyer whispered like poison into documentation. The narrative crafted against her, unstable, emotional, unfit, offered as justification for stripping her of everything she had helped him build. She remembered staying up until sunrise editing his presentations, designing the branding that launched Hart Dynamics globally, comforting him through panic attacks during his early failures. And now she was an inconvenience removed with the efficiency of a corporate restructure. She descended the staircase, suitcase rolling softly behind her, each step echoing like a memory being erased. Damon didn't walk her out. He didn't watch the door close. He turned his back before she reached the bottom. Outside, lightning cracked across the sky as her ride, a simple taxi arranged by the house staff, waited with its engine humming. Evelyn stepped inside with shaking hands, the mansion glowing behind her like a giant golden monument to a life she'd been cut out of entirely. As the car pulled away, she whispered the words that would shape the rest of her life. "I will return, and when I do, you'll know exactly who I've become." The city swallowed her whole that night. 2 years later, the world did not know the Evelyn who emerged. She had vanished, completely and intentionally. No social media, no interviews, no public appearances. To society, she had disappeared into nothing. But while Damon celebrated his freedom with expensive trips and new companions, half of the financial district whispered in curiosity about the silent, mysterious investor who began buying distressed companies and turning them into empires. Evelyn had always had a mind for strategy. Damon used to exploit that, relying on her to sharpen his presentations and predict market shifts. But now she wielded it like a weapon. She studied. She rebuilt. She allied with people Damon had burned bridges with. She walked into offices where her name meant nothing and walked out owning the table. But the true transformation began the afternoon she met Raphael King. He was everything Damon fearfully pretended to be. Sharp, dangerous, brilliant, and unwilling to take advantage of her. A billionaire by 33, the owner of King Holdings and one of the most ruthless competitors in Damon's industry. He found Evelyn at a private equity summit, standing alone at a balcony, analyzing market forecasts with a confidence that caught his interest immediately. "You're not here to network," he said behind her. "You're here to hunt." She glanced at him, slightly startled. "Maybe. Or maybe I just prefer watching from above." He smirked. "No, hunters never watch. They calculate." He knew her story within a week. She didn't hide it. She didn't need to. "You want your life back," Raphael said during one of their strategy meetings. "No," she corrected softly. "I want to own the one he stole." Raphael leaned back, his eyes gleaming with a mix of fascination and respect. "Then we'll take everything he holds dear, slowly, thoroughly, elegantly." And they did. Evelyn learned to navigate corporate war. She built alliances. She invested quietly, strategically, circling Damon's empire not like a vengeful ghost, but like a patient storm gathering its force. It wasn't long before she began purchasing shares of Hart Dynamics through shell companies. She watched his financials bleed from mismanagement and arrogance. She watched the board grow nervous. She watched the mansion, once her home, fall into the maintenance of staff who didn't bother hiding their dissatisfaction. With Damon. Then came the night everything aligned. Raphael slid a folder across the penthouse table. "This," he said, "is the foreclosure notice on the mansion. He failed to refinance the debt you never knew existed." Evelyn stared at the documents, her pulse a quiet storm. "He's losing the house?" "Not losing," Raphael corrected. "Selling. To who?" He smiled slowly. "To you." For a moment, Evelyn forgot to breathe. This house was the symbol of everything Damon took, everything he believed she didn't deserve. Owning it would be the first domino. The day Damon returned home to find the gates locked, the staff quiet, the security guards newly replaced, and a sold sign planted proudly at the edge of the pristine lawn, he stormed up the driveway livid. "I want the new owner's name," he barked. "Now." A sleek black car pulled up behind him. The door opened with a soft click. Evelyn stepped out wearing a fitted white suit, hair glowing under the sunset, confidence radiating from her like she'd been reborn. She didn't rush. She didn't smile. She walked toward him as the wind lifted the hem of her jacket, the mansion she now owned rising behind her like a reclaimed crown. Damon stared, stunned, breath caught, anger melting into disbelief. "You," he whispered. "You bought my house?" "No," Evelyn corrected smoothly. "I bought my house. You were just living in it." The wind shifted across the stone courtyard, rustling the leaves of the towering oaks that lined the estate's entrance. Damon remained frozen, staring at Evelyn as though she were an apparition carved from the very storm he once threw her into. She stood, poised, powerful, unrecognizable from the quiet woman he dismissed, a woman he once believed he could break without consequence. Her white suit glowed softly in the setting sun, her posture tall, her eyes steady in a way that made Damon's facade crack. "You can't be serious," he finally managed, his voice trembling with the disbelief of a man whose world was beginning to tilt. This is my home." Evelyn stepped closer, slowly, confidently, each click of her heels echoing through the courtyard. "No, Damon," she said quietly. "It was never yours. It was our home. You chose to make it only yours the day you pushed me out." Silence spread between them like a shadow. "What did you think would happen?" she continued, her voice steady, controlled, free of the emotional tremor he once weaponized. "That I would vanish? That I would crumble the way you hoped? That I would spend the rest of my life begging for scraps of the dignity you stole?" He swallowed hard. She watched the truth sink into him like slow poison. He expected tears. He expected pleading. He expected the Evelyn he'd molded to fit his comfort. But this Evelyn was carved from steel and quiet fury, from nights spent rebuilding her mind and days spent reclaiming the life he had tried to suffocate. "You bought the house," he repeated, still breathless. "Why?" "Because I could," she answered simply. "Because you never imagined a world where I was not beneath you." His jaw tensed. "You think this scares me? You think owning a house means anything? You don't know what you're doing, Evelyn. You were never built for this. You were never built for the life I have." A soft smile tugged at the corner of her lips. "Damon," she murmured, "I didn't come back to your life. I came back to mine." He took a step forward, anger rising as his pride flared. "You can't take this from me. You can't just—" "I already did." Her words were cold, clean, final. A sleek black sedan pulled into the driveway. Raphael King stepped out, his presence unmistakable even without introduction. He adjusted the cuffs of his tailored suit, his eyes cool as they settled on Damon, then softened when they shifted to Evelyn. Damon's rage ignited instantly. "You," he spat. "You're behind this? You think you can just—" Raphael raised a hand, silencing him with a gesture so calm it stung. "I think," Raphael said evenly, "that Evelyn is capable of doing more than you ever allowed her to. I'm simply the man who recognized her value while you dismissed it." Evelyn didn't look at Raphael. She didn't need to. His respect was evident in every word, every glance, every decision he made to stand beside her, but never in front of her. Damon's face twisted. "This is ridiculous. You think you can embarrass me? Humiliate me like this?" "You humiliated yourself," Evelyn replied. "You gambled with everything, thinking luck would always bend for you. But luck didn't betray you, Damon. You betrayed yourself." A security guard approached with a folder. Evelyn took it and handed it directly to Damon. His fingers shook as he opened it. The first page hit him like a blow to the lungs. Transfer of ownership. Foreclosure notices. Debt he didn't even know Evelyn knew existed. Losses from his own mistakes. "No," he whispered. This has to be legal," Evelyn finished softly. "Documented. Irreversible." Damon sank onto the steps, clutching the papers as though they were burning his hands. He looked up at her, eyes wide with the same desperation she once felt packed into a suitcase on a stormy night. Except now she wasn't helpless. She wasn't alone. She wasn't broken. "You planned this," he said weakly. "No," she replied. "You planned this. Every insult, every betrayal, every humiliation. You planted them all like seeds, Damon. I just gave them light." He bowed his head, the weight of the moment crushing him. He had never been small before, but now he seemed to shrink before her. Raphael stepped to Evelyn's side, speaking only when necessary. "The Board of Hart Dynamics will be meeting tonight. Your resignation letter has been drafted. Once Evelyn signs, she will become the majority shareholder. This is the last time you will stand in this driveway as CEO." Damon's head snapped up. "CEO, Evelyn? She doesn't know how to run a company. She's not capable," Evelyn interjected. "You said that enough times that I almost believed you." "Almost." Raphael's gaze hardened. "She's more capable than you ever were." Damon looked between them, chest rising and falling with unsteady breaths. "Please," he whispered, the word foreign on his tongue. Evelyn felt the shift. Quiet, painful, heavy. He was no longer the man who had cast her aside like debris. He was just a man facing the collapse he'd orchestrated with his own arrogance. She stepped closer, and the storm that once raged inside her now settled into a strange, serene clarity. "This isn't about revenge anymore," she said softly. "This is about balance." He closed his eyes as though the words cut deeper than anger ever could. "You will lose the company," she continued. "You will lose the mansion. But I will not destroy your life the way you tried to destroy mine." His eyes opened, filled with confusion. "Why? Why would you spare me after everything I did?" Evelyn took a slow breath, the kind that felt like releasing an entire chapter of her life. "Because I don't need your destruction to prove my worth," she said. "And because mercy from someone you underestimated hurts deeper than cruelty ever could." Raphael watched her, a quiet respect settling in his expression. "Leave the mansion tonight," she finished. "I've arranged for a temporary residence for you. It's modest, but safe, and more than you offered me." Damon's shoulders slumped. He covered his face with his hands, and Evelyn turned away, not out of cruelty but out of finality. It was done. She didn't need to watch him fall further. She had reclaimed what was hers, rebuilt what he tried to break, and risen in a way he never imagined. Raphael opened the door for her. "You handled that," he murmured, with more grace than he ever deserved. Evelyn stepped inside the mansion, her mansion, and looked around at the gleaming floors, the high ceilings, the chandeliers that once illuminated her tears. Now they reflected her strength. "Grace," she whispered, "is the one thing he never had." Raphael smiled. "And the one quality that makes you unstoppable." As Damon walked down the driveway for the last time, shoulders heavy under the weight of everything he had lost, Evelyn watched only long enough to confirm the past was truly behind her. Then she closed the door. Not gently, not harshly, but with the quiet certainty of a woman who finally owned the life that once rejected her.